When true awakening begins, it shatters everything you thought you knew about life. It isn't a theory or belief. It's a direct seeing, an unveiling of what's been hidden behind the noise of ordinary perception. Suddenly, the world that once felt solid turns fluid. The boundaries between you and everything else start to dissolve, and what's left is something so vast, so alive, that words seem foolish in its presence. Yet the first impulse that arises within this expansion is often the most innocent mistake a newly awakened soul can make: the desire to share it. You want to tell others what you've seen, but the moment you try, the truth begins to fade into concepts. You quickly learn that truth cannot be given, it can only be discovered. When you attempt to describe awakening, your words fall like arrows missing their target, landing harmlessly in the soil of misunderstanding. People may listen, but they won't hear. They will translate what you say through the filters of their own conditioning, reducing infinite stillness to an intellectual idea, turning living truth into philosophy. And when they do, they'll look at you with polite distance, as though you've drifted into something strange. You'll sense their confusion, maybe even their discomfort, and realize that what you experienced cannot survive the weight of explanation. Speaking of awakening to those who haven't glimpsed it is like trying to explain color to someone born blind. You can describe the warmth of red or the calm of blue, but without the eyes to see, your words are just sound. And in that moment, you'll understand that the experience itself, sacred, living, wordless, is not meant to be broadcast. It's meant to transform you. Sharing it too early is like exposing a sprout to the harsh wind before it's taken root. It risks being misunderstood, dismissed, or worse, turned into egoic pride disguised as spiritual truth. Even if your intentions are pure, revealing your awakening often creates division where unity was seen. The ego subtly returns, whispering, "You've seen what others have not." And in that thought, separation is reborn. The awakened no longer seek to be understood, because they recognize that understanding belongs to the mind, while awakening belongs to being. To speak of it as an achievement only strengthens what awakening dissolved. You cannot point to oneness without creating two, the one who points and the one who looks. So the truly awake grow silent, not in arrogance, but in reverence. They realize that awakening isn't a trophy to display, it's a fire to tend quietly. The less it's spoken, the more it deepens. The less it's defended, the stronger it becomes. Instead of trying to tell others about the light, you become the light itself, steady, still, unprovable. And in your silence, those who are ready will feel what words could never teach. After realizing that awakening cannot be spoken, another subtle test appears, the temptation to share how you got there. You may think, if words can't describe what I've seen, maybe I can at least share the steps that led me to it. It seems noble, even generous, to tell others about the meditation that changed everything, the moment of surrender that opened the veil, or the method that silenced the mind. But this too is a form of revealing what must remain private. For the path that awakened you was not a universal map, it was your personal doorway, carved by the rhythm of your own soul. Each seeker walks a unique terrain. What cracked open your illusion might only tighten another's chains. One person awakens through discipline and stillness, another through heartbreak and chaos. One needs silence, another needs music. To assume that what worked for you must work for all is to forget that consciousness expresses itself differently through every being. Your method was medicine for your specific illusion. It healed your particular blindness. But give that same medicine to another, and it may poison rather than purify. Even ancient masters understood this. They often spoke in contradictions because they knew no single practice could capture truth. A student was once told to meditate for years, and when the practice became a cage, the teacher told him to stop. Both instructions were right, but only for the moment they were given. The path is not about repeating what someone else did. It's about discovering what you need to release right now. And once the release happens, there's no formula left to share, only freedom. When you share your method, you invite others to chase your shadow instead of their own light. They begin imitating your form rather than following their intuition. Soon, the sacred act of seeking becomes mechanical, another performance of the ego trying to achieve enlightenment. But awakening is not achieved, it's remembered. It unfolds when all effort collapses, when the need to become ends and the truth of being emerges. You cannot teach someone to stop striving by giving them something else to strive for. So, if you are spiritually awake, never reveal your personal path as a blueprint for others. Let your silence be their mirror instead. Those truly ready to awaken will find their own way, often in the very absence of instruction. Like rivers flowing toward the same ocean, each must carve its own course through the landscape of the soul. What matters is not the technique, but the surrender behind it. Guard the sacred path that opened your eyes, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for its intimacy. It was meant for you, and you alone. Once you understand that your path was meant only for you, something remarkable begins to happen. The same awareness that freed you starts to turn outward, illuminating the hidden corners of others. You begin to see through people, not as an act of judgment, but as an effortless perception. Masks become transparent. Words no longer conceal what they once did. You can feel when someone speaks from fear, when their confidence is only armor, or when their kindness hides a quiet wound. To see this clearly is both a gift and a burden, because now you know what few can see, but you also know you must never expose it. To point out another's illusion before they're ready to see, it is to interrupt the sacred unfolding of their soul. Every person must struggle through their own dream until the dream dissolves from within. If you try to wake someone before their eyes have adjusted to the light, they will only resist you. They will cling even tighter to their illusion because it feels safer than the unknown you are pointing to. The ego interprets your insight as an attack, and what was meant as compassion becomes conflict. So, if you are spiritually awake, never reveal what you see in others. Let them discover it through the rhythm of their own becoming. There is a quiet wisdom in silence. Just as a butterfly must push against its cocoon to gain the strength to fly, every person must wrestle with their shadows before they can stand in their light. If you cut open the cocoon in pity, the butterfly will never take flight. The same law applies to the soul. When you refrain from exposing someone's unconsciousness, you give them the dignity of their own awakening. You trust life to teach what only experience can reveal. In that patience, your silence becomes more healing than any truth you could have spoken. True seeing doesn't seek to fix, it simply understands. When you stop trying to correct people, you start loving them as they are. You allow the divine intelligence working through them to finish its work without interference. The spiritually awake know that silence, presence, and compassion awaken far more than advice or revelation ever could. To see others clearly and still remain quiet, that is not withholding truth, that is embodying it. As your silence deepens and you learn to see without speaking, awareness begins to turn inward again, toward the unshakable stillness behind all appearances. What once felt like emptiness now reveals itself as the very foundation of existence. You start to perceive that nothing truly stands alone, that everything, including you, is woven from the same invisible thread. Forms appear and vanish like waves on an endless ocean, but the ocean itself remains untouched. This is the void, pure, boundless, and alive. And yet, if you are spiritually awake, you must never speak of it to those who are not ready to hear. To the unprepared mind, the void sounds like destruction. When you say that there is no permanent self, no fixed identity, no solid ground beneath our feet, most will hear only despair. Their sense of stability depends on believing that life has edges, that I is something real and separate. To tell them otherwise feels like erasing their world. They mistake freedom for chaos, unity for meaninglessness. You mean to speak of liberation, but they hear annihilation. What was revelation to you would be unbearable confusion to them. That is why the ancient teachers veiled such truths in parables, symbols, and silence, because truth, given before its time, burns rather than awakens. There is a reason the sages spoke of the groundless ground. To glimpse it is to see that existence itself is a dance of impermanence, that all form is movement, all identity a mirage. For those who have seen, this realization is pure peace, a release from the tyranny of fear and attachment. But to one still clinging to form, it is terror. They will ask, if there's no solid self, then who am I? And until the heart is ready to answer through direct knowing, words will only wound. So you remain silent, not in secrecy, but in mercy. You guard this vision like fire in your hands, knowing that truth, when shared too soon, can scorch instead of warm. In the quiet acceptance of the void, you become steady. You no longer seek to explain the unexplainable. You no longer feel the urge to make others understand. You let your calm speak for you. People may not grasp what you've seen, but they will feel it. The peace that comes from not needing to hold on to anything. That presence communicates far more than doctrine ever could. For the one who has truly seen the void knows, silence is the only language vast enough for eternity. When you awaken, you realize something few dare to see. All morality, all rules, all social codes are agreements within the dream. They are necessary for the game, but they are not ultimate truth. You can see the strings behind the puppet show, and with that comes the sense of complete freedom. Yet to speak this aloud is to invite misunderstanding. Tell the world you are beyond good and evil, and they'll think you've lost your mind or your conscience. They'll imagine rebellion where there is only peace. What they cannot see is that true freedom never harms, because in oneness, harm makes no sense. Hurting another would be like cutting your own hand and calling it victory. The awakened one follows laws, but lightly, pays the bills, obeys the signals, bows to the flow, not out of submission, but harmony. They play the game fully while knowing it's a game. Their kindness is effortless, their morality natural, not the morality of rules, but of resonance. Such a person walks through life as if playing a role with awareness. They know it's a play, yet their performance is sincere. Their words are gentle, their actions measured, because they see themselves in everyone. Freedom has made them kind. To the unawakened, this seems paradoxical. How can one be free from morality and yet live so ethically? But to those who see, it is obvious. The moment you realize there is no separation, compassion becomes as natural as breathing. So what should you do with awakening? Protect it, nurture it in silence. Let it express itself through how you live, not through what you say. Speaking of it too soon drains its power. Living it deepens it. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to embody what they cannot yet imagine. Remember, truth is not taught, it's caught. The fragrance of your being will awaken more souls than any speech ever could. So guard your silence like sacred ground. Let your presence speak. Those meant to awaken will feel it in your calm, your laughter, your way of being. Because real awakening needs no announcement. It shines quietly, and the world feels it, even if it doesn't understand why.